Hey guys, Tex here. Today's Monday, September 23rd, 2019. So in this video, I want to discuss the concept behind thinking contrarian. What does that actually mean? Because without context behind it, it doesn't mean a whole lot. We need to understand when to actually act upon the thinking contrarian idea. Because if we're seeing a stock that's literally just, selling off really hard, does that mean that we think contrarian and we buy that when everyone else is selling? No, of course not. We don't want to try to catch a falling knife, even though there are counter trend strategies. It's not something that you really want to try to do. That's not what it means to think contrarian. Netflix, I think, provided a great example of how you could think contrarian and the proper way to execute on that whole idea. So for some context, let's look at the daily chart on Netflix real quick here. Netflix broke down outside of this wedge that we had been trading in on Friday. And it was notable that today we opened up underneath of that trend line, the bottom trend line from the wedge. So I had a plan to go long or short depending on what Netflix did out of the gate. And that was really the key. What is Netflix going to do out of the gate? So let's go back to our daily chart, our intraday chart, and see how this actually worked out. Also, full disclaimer, I did not take this trade. I had some technical issues with my trading platform this morning, so unfortunately I didn't get to trade at all today. So here on Netflix, we look at this and we see Netflix opens right here, and I'm paying attention to two key levels. The first one I'm noticing is our previous day's low is sitting right down here, about 266. And then up here on the top side, we have the trend line, which is the bottom trend line from our wedge on the daily chart. And also we have the pivot point on the day. So we kind of have like two layers of resistance overhead. So I'm looking at this and I tell myself, what are traders going to do in this situation if Netflix sells right out of the open or if Netflix rips right out of the open? All right, so let's say that Netflix actually sold off straight out of the open. It didn't bounce up at all. It literally just sold right off out of the open. So I ask myself, what are at least some traders, maybe not very smart traders, going to do if they see Netflix start to sell out of the open? They're going to see it start selling and they're going to be like, shit, it's selling. I'm going to get in. So they start chasing this short, right? And as they chase this short, I notice that we have the previous day's low sitting right there. Not very far away, but far enough away for shorts to get positioned poorly. So as it comes into the previous low, what do you think smart money is going to do? They're going to cover some of their position in case that holds. The previous low is usually a pretty significant level that we want to be aware of. And because it's far enough away to allow shorts to chase this down and get positioned poorly, there's a high probability that it will hold here, and those shorts who are positioned poorly will get squeezed out of their position as it holds and lifts back up. Because you're going to have smart money who's going to cover some of their position there. You're going to have longs who are looking for an entry off of that level. And as it lifts back up, you're going to have more longs and more shorts covering and chasing up like that. All right. So by thinking contrarian in this situation, I actually put myself in a position to take advantage of traders who are thinking short as it sells right out of the gate into a very key level. So that was the idea. If it had actually sold straight out of the gate, was to go long into the previous day's low. And ideally, I'd be targeting first the previous day's close, and then if it got there, I'd be targeting the bottom side of the wedge, the trend line here in the daily chart. All right. Now, if it ripped out of the gate as it did, I'm going to think again contrarian and look for a short, because what are traders going to do in this situation? If it rips right out of the gate, there's going to be people who want to chase this long, thinking Netflix is going to bounce here. It sold off a lot Friday, so it's going to bounce. So they're going to start chasing this long on the way up. People who do get into this long are going to be, or at least smart people, are going to be well aware of this significant trend line overhead and the pivot point, and they're definitely going to take some profit into that level. Furthermore, I'm asking myself, if someone did want to short this, or someone is already short, maybe even from last week, where would they add to their position? Well, they would add right here into that trend line because it offers such nice risk reward. As long as it stays under this trend line and doesn't get back inside that wedge, they're good. But if it does, then they would probably stop out of their position, or at least new shorts would. So it's a great place to initiate a short position if you missed the trade on Friday, or you just want to add to your position. and it's a great place to take profit if you're long and you chase this move up, right? So in this particular situation, because it was a little further away from the open, and because we had the way the price action moved up into there, of course we had, you know, a run up, a pullback, a run up, a pullback, and then a run up. So it kind of trended up into that level. In this situation, since it didn't just rip into that level, I would actually wait for confirmation before initiating this trade. So instead of shorting it as it comes into that level, I would wait for a lower high to set in, which is obviously a much safer entry into a trade. So we, of course, got a lower high right here. Maybe not the easiest one to take, because what essentially happened is when we pulled back here, we kind of retraced up, and then we consolidated for a little bit here before the liquidation break came. So maybe you didn't necessarily trust it right there, but if you look closely, you'll notice that each one of these 1 minute candles is putting in a lower high. It's very subtle, but those subtleties in trading is very important to pay attention to. So if you had shorted it right here, anywhere in this area on this lower high, you know, you had nice tight risk on the trade. You had the clear resistance levels overhead. I would have risked just over that high of day right there. And very tight risk on the trade. Your realistic targets would be the open price, because since we've ripped out of the open, that's essentially going to be like a double bottom. And the open price itself can often provide, you know, support. It's a level to be aware of. The next level that I would take profit would be either pre-market lows, or just under that, you've got the previous low of day. So anywhere in that area would be a good second target. And then maybe you leave some on in case it gets down here to the next daily level around the 263.38 area. So you could have, you know, really caught a nice move on Netflix if you had just been, you know, a little patient to take the lower high instead of shorting it right into the level in this particular example. But let's say that you actually didn't take it here because you didn't quite trust it. It looked like it was trying to hold, and there was certainly a risk that it might just squeeze hard through that level, because that would certainly be a trigger point for some shorts to cover. And then what ends up happening is you get the liquidation break, and you're like, oh shit, well, there it goes. I knew it was going to do that, but I didn't take the trade. Well, don't stop watching it, because a lot of times you might get a second entry into the trade. So once that happened, it gave us a chance to put a trend line on the chart drawn from our high of day here. We would anchor it to the top of that liquidation candle and just extend it across, right? So we patiently wait and see if we can get a retest or a back test of that trend line. In this case, we did get it, and so it gave you a second chance to get in with another lower high. As soon as you see these two candles with these long upper wicks get stuffed down, that's telling you right there they're sellers selling right into that level. So even if you shorted it right here on this doji candle after that rejection, you still had nice tight risk on the trade. You know, you would have basically just risked right here over the trend line. I probably wouldn't have risked up to high of day. It's a little far away. And since this is such major resistance, if it was in fact going to remain major resistance, it really shouldn't have gotten back up to high of day. So I would have kept my risk tight on this particular trade, and then just hit the same targets on the way down. You know, first your open, then pre-market low, previous day low, or the and then finally the next day daily level down there. All right, so hopefully that helps you guys. You know, like I said, every setup is different. No two setups are the same. And it's just something that will come with experience and time. You kind of learn about what the right distances are when you're talking about looking for a quick wash into a level off the open. You know, for example, I mean, if our previous day's low wasn't here, if our next support level was way down here and we opened here, that's too far away, right? That's just too far away. Or another example is if we actually opened here and, you know, the previous day's low is just below that, that's too close. Most likely what would happen is if we opened here, the price, if it just sold right out of the gate, it would just go right through. It wouldn't even stop. It's too close. So that's just something that comes with time, but hopefully the video helps you out with the concept behind thinking contrarian, and you know, how you could execute on an idea like that. So leave any comments or questions below, guys. As always, I appreciate you watching. Take care, and we'll catch you in the next video. See ya.